Welcome to the podcast, Write a Book That Doesn't Suck, where I help you write, edit, and sell a book that readers will love. I'm your host, Jaimie Engle of the Write Engle, and today we're going to get into the topic of when do you tell and not show? As writers, I think one of the number one rules that is pounded in our heads from grade school and on is the phrase, show, don't tell, right? Show it. Show the scene. Don't tell it. Show it. And yeah, of course that's important. But if you think about it, if you were to show every single second of every single moment of that character's life, that would be very boring. If you were to show every sequence that happens from scene to scene, that would be very boring. But how do you know when to show and when to tell? How do you know when to tell and when to show? Well, my answer is tension. Whichever brings the most tension to the story and for the reader, that is your route. How do you know that? Well, I think that's a little bit of balance, a little bit of study, and a lot of practice. So here's an example. You know when you watch a movie and the kids are trying to figure out how to raise money, and then one of them gets this bright idea, hey, I know, let's have a car wash. Do we need to watch them get in their car, go to Walmart, find aisle 12, grab sponges, find aisle 6, get Ajax, find aisle 7, get a bucket? No, of course not. We don't need to be a part of all that. We just need to see a little montage, some clips of them popping into the Walmart parking lot, putting a couple things in the cart, maybe wheeling across the screen with one of them on the cart, just being pushed. And then the final scene are the kids back at the den, back at the lair, whatever they live at, and counting up the stuff and getting ready for tomorrow's car wash. Or even going through the whole car wash experience in that montage, and the next scene that we see are them counting up their dollars, because that's why they needed to do a car wash, right? To raise money for something. You can obviously concur that the motions it takes to get that cash were not important. What was important was getting that cash. So in that instance, it's pretty clear that a montage is cool. As a reader or as a film goer, you don't need to see every moment of that. Now, in other cases, that's the whole tension. The whole story is about Guy trying to get from point A to point B and all of the blunders along the way, right? That's the story. That brings the most tension. So I guess in another sense, you need to ask yourself, what is the story problem? What is the story genre? All of these elements are going to play into where you decide when you can show and tell versus when you can just tell it and not show it. So what I encourage you to do today is to take a look at your work and find places where maybe you have chosen to show something that we just don't need to see. It doesn't bring tension to the story. It doesn't improve or increase the value of the story. It actually might decrease it. And also, where in the story have you chosen to tell something that you really should have shown? Where have you decided that you're going to summarize something and it's really just because you didn't want to write the scene out? A lot of times as writers, we have a tendency to want to summarize the hard writing because it's easier. But when you look at that paragraph, is this something that will change my character? Is what you really should ask yourself. This moment in the story, is this going to change or be a piece of the character's change as they move through the story on their hero's journey? And if it is, which if you're looking at it, it probably is and you know it already, you got to write it out. You got to show it. So go through your work, find places where you can improve by showing or improve by telling, and let me know how it goes. That's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me on Write a Book That Doesn't Suck, the podcast. Would love to know what you want to learn, so please put it in the comments, subscribe to, follow and like this podcast, and check out all the other great podcasts on the Space Coast Podcast Network. It is a great place to be. If you do love being here and learning, I have a Facebook group of the same name, facebook.com/Write a Book That Doesn't Suck. It's a collaborative effort of writers coming together in a community, sharing ideas, sharing events, sharing what's worked for them and what hasn't worked for them. It's free to join, and I would love to have you come on over and hang out with us. I think that's it, guys. I appreciate you hanging out, and until next time, happy writing.